I'm sure by the time I finally get this video up, the news cycle will have moved on 4 times over, but I don't care. I wasted 20 minutes of my life reading Canceled at 17, the New York Magazine cover story that is now titled Teenage Justice, A List of Boys to Look Out For, appeared on a high school bathroom wall last fall, the story of one of them. And since I wasted my time, now I'm going to waste your time venting all of my anger about this absolutely garbage article. First of all, a content warning. I will be talking about sexual assault and suicide, so if that's too much for you, you might want to give this video a skip. Second of all, I want to offer a big fuck you to the few people, all men, who posted this article on Facebook talking about how thought-provoking it is and how horrible teenagers are. And I saw that. I saw it enough times on my feed, I thought, oh, this must be worth my time. Well, guess what? It wasn't. And I knew that it wasn't going to be worth my time within moments of starting it because it was so badly written. I had to Google the name of the writer to confirm that they were not, in fact, one of the high school students described in the piece. That would have made sense in terms of passages that sound like they were written by a chatbot that had yet to learn proper sentence structure. Just one more kid with a backpack in a hoodie. And at first, Diego waved and Jenny smiled. Diego because he wanted to show he wasn't scared, as this kid had thrown accelerant on a stupid mistake Diego had made, thus blown up Diego's life. Like, I think that should be thus blowing up Diego's life, but the whole, just get rid of it. The idea that the writer's a teenager would also explain the way everyone in this story is described like a character from Gossip Girl. Diego, who is enormously appealing but also very canceled. Diego's eyes dark, goofy, and sad. His body freshly stretched to almost 6 feet. Dave attended a different school, but he was such a good wingman. His earnestness was so disarming. His golden curls fell so adorably into his eyes that everyone, boys and girls alike, was at least a little smitten with him. Unfortunately, it turns out these passages were typed, presumably with one hand, by a grown-ass woman named Elizabeth Wheel. And for some reason, Wheel writes thousands and thousands of words about Diego and his friends dealing with their cancellation before she tells us why Diego was canceled. He showed off his girlfriend's nude photos to a bunch of people at a party without her permission. And while he felt he apologized to his girlfriend, she says it was more of a love letter and less of an actual apology. So he showed people photos of his nude teen girlfriend, learned nothing, did nothing to fix anything, and now a bunch of other teens don't want to hang out with him anymore. Not everyone, of course. The article spends a lot of time talking about his friends who stood by him and the other canceled boys who hang out with him in the library. Oh, and also he went to 4 proms and he's been accepted to college. But for some reason, this article decided to feature Diego as the victim. Wheel goes to great lengths to make sure you don't feel bad for Diego's ex-girlfriend when the writer finally gets around to admitting what it is Diego did to her. Let's just take a peek at this passage. Then, in the middle of last summer, Diego went to a party. He got drunk, and Diego really fucked up here. Everybody, including Diego, agrees on that. So please consider setting aside judgment for a moment. Showed a nude of his beautiful girlfriend to a few kids there. That is one of the most disgusting paragraphs I've ever read in an article. And not just because of the egregious use of em dashes and the colon or the faux casual tone. This sentence has everything. A built-in excuse, he was drunk. A flattering display of his character, he knows he fucked up. A vague downplaying of the situation, a few kids. And the absolute worst part is the second implied excuse, his beautiful girlfriend. She was previously described in this article as almost psychedelically beautiful, pale, celestial skin, a whole galaxy of freckles, a supernova of lush hair. So, you guys, this wasn't a teen boy showing off a girl's naked body non-consensually in order to brag about his prowess and boost his own manhood. No, This was a teen boy who was so in love he just couldn't help but share his girlfriend's beautiful body with others. Like, if you really think about it, wasn't it kind of a compliment? Ew. When his girlfriend found out about this gross violation, she dumped Diego and she filed a Title IX complaint with her school. Many of their classmates spread the news and people stopped hanging out with Diego. Graffiti in the girls' bathroom listed the names of boys who had been found to be abusers to warn other girls, and Diego ended up on the list, but clearly he and Will believe he shouldn't have been. A lot of the canceling that Will describes sounds like it was pulled from the That Happened subreddit, like one bully saying in a classroom, "Fuck Diego, I love cancel culture. If you were to cancel anyone, who would you cancel?" Just... Can you picture a human teenager saying that? I love cancel culture. Who would you, if you could cancel anybody, who would you cancel? I'd cancel Hitler. It's so cringe. He was like, "Yo, I heard this kid was walking around bragging that he was going to tell your girlfriend that you showed some random dude or nude." Diego was like, "Bro, what?" And then get this, that kid did tell his girlfriend that he showed some random dude or nude. Dude or nude. This is just, chef's kiss writing. Despite this article being incredibly too long, there are a lot of missing pieces. For a start, Will appears to completely miss the true villain of this story.
Betsy DeVos.
I know, you weren't expecting that, were you? I mean... Obviously, Diego is a villain as well, seeing that he shared non-consensual pornography of an underage girl. But remember how I said the girl filed a Title IX complaint? Well, Will admits that the complaint did nothing to help anyone, and the lack of the school administration doing anything about this case and others is what led to many of the teens staging a walkout around the same time that the list of dangerous boys was appearing in the girls' bathroom. The reason why, though, the complaint did nothing was because back in 2017, Trump's Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, began the process of rolling back years of civil rights protections for students across the country by rescinding guidance on Title IX, according to the activist group Know Your Nine. For those who don't know, Title IX is a federal law passed by Congress in 1972, originally to protect women and girls from discrimination in education, and later the courts determined that that could also be applied to protect other marginalized groups like LGBTQ people. Over the years, conservatives have chipped away at these rights, but DeVos really dealt it a killing blow, deciding that it could no longer apply to anything that happens off campus, narrowing the definition of what counts as sexual harassment, imposing new filing requirements on victims, and allowing suspected abusers to fight back against their accusers with litigation. In 2020, Politico reported Brett Socolow, an attorney and Title IX consultant, predicted systemic failure within a few years as both colleges and K-12 schools struggled to put in place the federal requirements. "I think the system potentially collapses under the weight of the litigation that comes from this," he said. And guess what? He was right. School administrators like Diego's were unwilling or unable to respond properly to Title IX complaints anymore. Whereas prior to DeVos's new rules, they might have been better equipped to actually sit down with both parties and work on some kind of restorative justice and growth. Instead, victims were left feeling completely unsupported by authorities, meaning they really had no choice but to either shut up about it or engage in positive actions like walkouts and using the same whisper networks that women have used for millennia to keep other women safe. And as Will would probably see this, the tragic result of all of this is that a boy who violated a girl's privacy lost some friends. Not so many that he didn't get to go to 4 proms. I'm sorry. I'm still reeling from that as a giant nerd in high school who went to 1 prom and hated it, even cried a little. Meanwhile, Will misrepresents that this is some kind of new epidemic known as canceling, which it's not. When I was in high school a million years ago, I was part of a small group of 5 friends who canceled one member of our group. She hooked up with another girl's boyfriend, and so we iced her out. No more phone calls, no more party invites, no more sitting with us at lunch. We branded her slutty, and we had nothing more to do with her. We kept up that stint for years, and it was only after I went off to college and got some distance and perspective that I realized how stupidly I had behaved, and I apologized to her. But I know that during that time, her life was really awful because of how we treated her for what was just a stupid teenage mistake. You know, it was a small high school. Losing your 4 best friends as a sophomore, that sucked for her. Teens have been doing this kind of shit and will continue doing this kind of shit forever because teens are kind of stupid and socially awkward. And that's the entire point of being a teenager. It's learning how to navigate relationships and social situations that you're encountering for the first time. And we learn these things in high school, which is good because high school has a definite end date, at which point we can all go our separate ways and pretend it never happened. The problem isn't that these teenagers did this to a boy for violating a girl's privacy. That's actually fucking great. Because the real problem for many, many years has been teens doing it to girls because, like I did to my friend in high school, they're sexually promiscuous or just suspected of being sexually promiscuous or because they're raped or because they have their nude photos passed around by the boys they thought they could trust. Here's a not fun fact. If you go to the Wikipedia page for the Steubenville high school rape case, in which a teen girl was sexually assaulted by classmates who then passed around photos and videos of the event laughing about it, and after which adults tried to cover it up by telling the victim not to press charges because it would ruin those poor boys' lives. If you go to that Wikipedia page, you can scroll all the way to the bottom and Wikipedia shows you pages related to this one. And in this case, those are all about other famous cases where teen girls were sexually assaulted, several of which ended in that teen girl committing suicide. Like Rebeccawatson Parsons, who at the age of 15 was raped by 4 boys. The boys then passed around a photo of the crime so that everyone in her school and in her small town knew about it, which resulted in her being inundated with people calling her a slut and sending her messages asking for sex. The police at the time called it a he said, she said situation, and they dropped the investigation. 17 months after the rape, Rebeccawatson Parsons hung herself. Audrey Pott was 15 when she was raped by 3 boys who then took nude photos of her and circulated them around her school, leading kids to bully her. She killed herself a week later. 2 of the boys who raped her served 30 days, weekends only, and the third served 45 consecutive days in prison. For every famous case of a teen girl violated and then bullied, sometimes to the point of suicide, there are dozens more that we have never heard about. One survey from 2013 found that 1 in 10 ex-partners threatens to release revenge porn of their ex. And of those who threaten it, 60% actually do it. Another survey found that 90% of revenge porn or non-consensual image sharing victims are women. 93% said that it caused them great emotional distress. Half of them had suicidal thoughts, and nearly half of them said that they were then stalked or harassed by other people who saw their nudes. So if you tell me a story about a boy who passed around non-consensual nudes of a teenage girl, and you tell me that this is a horrible story of bullying, I would say, oh no, I hope that girl is still alive and getting the help she needs. And if you then say, oh, actually, no, this is the story of the boy getting bullied for sharing non-consensual nudes, I'd say, oh, well, no one should be bullied. What awful things happened to him? Well, some kids stopped being his friend and warned other girls to stay away from him. Oh, okay, well then was he bullied by people in positions of authority? Like, was he thrown in prison or some other unhelpful over-the-top response? Oh, no, school administration did not punish him at all. He's going to graduate soon and he's going to go away to college where no one will know what he did. Oh, also he went to 4 proms. I think at that point, I would just sigh, point out the definition of consequences, and simply hope that New York Magazine starts making better editorial decisions.